Alright, so 2-minute Tanya tidbit for today. So in the previous day's chapters, we've been explaining the idea that the world is totally nullified to God, as the entire world is only like the word of God himself, which is energizing the whole world at all times. Now, we explained yesterday, what does it mean that God speaks? Seemingly, he can't have something which is expressed outside of him, as God is everywhere, so nothing can leave him. And we explained that the idea of speak by God doesn't mean that something leaves him, rather it's the other aspect of speech, which is that it's now revealed to someone else. Now, today's Tanya we're going to explain that therefore, God's thought and speech are really the same idea, and they're all really included within him. And the Algebra explains that therefore God's thought and speech are totally one with him, just like a person's thoughts before they come up into his mind to think about it, or before a desire is expressed from his heart to go to his mind that he'll start thinking about it. As once it comes into the mind, there's already certain words there which are actually able to be expressed in words and be able to be spoken, but before it comes into the mind, there's no specific words there, and therefore all that's there is something which is totally one with him. And that's the exact way that the energy is with God, meaning both his thought and his speech are in a way that they're totally one with him, and they're totally not in a way that they're able to be understood by anybody else. So what's the difference between God's thoughts versus God's speech is the revelation to someone else. That in the eyes of the recipient, meaning us who are living in a world, when it was only in God's thoughts, we weren't able to be existed. But now that God came and expressed it in words, meaning when someone speaks, they're giving it to someone else in a way that they can understand it. So God took that energy, which is unlimited, which is too great to be expressed, and brought it down into words. Meaning he brought it down into a level which is now able to create a world in such a way that it becomes very limited. The energy came very mitzumtzum, very contracted, to the extent that it's now able to create a world which would not be totally nullified in its entire existence. And that's why that we call it speech and not thought, as thought would be on his level, as opposed to speech is where it's coming down to someone else, being much more limited in a way that it could create a limited world the way we see it. See you next time.